until later on, and now look, he's making a complete.
But what's that?
I don't feel good.
If you
Lemon.
for the off, don't. I don't.
Or $1 a week.
We just had to make some last minute changes right before.
Well,
right before we went live on air. You can just leave it over there, or you know what? Yeah, okay. You know what? No, stay there. You know what? Come in. You know, stay. All right, couple seconds. Thank you. Woohoo! Thank you very much, Gerald. You know what to do.
Fired. Yeah.
Glad you're with. We have a lot to get to today. There's a debate going on about the pardons, the preemptive pardons now from Joe Biden. Does he have the right to do it as former vice president? You can comment below. I'll actually inform you as to the history of this practice. Something pretty important. You know, we've seen the weaponization of our justice system. You've been following the story with Daniel Penny, right? The New York subway. Some people think hero, good Samaritan, and the corrupt prosecutor in New York thinks maybe white supremacist, but she's a lesbian, so. And
an obvious one, yes.
And Mitt Romney's done, so that's a lot of fun. So we, it's gonna be a fun time. Let me ask you, how would you clean up New York City, aside from nukes? Leave your comment below.
New York City.
I was going to say A-bomb.
By the way, those commercials were very extreme. The guy just has salsa from New York, and they burn him alive.
No. It's get a rope. They hang him.
No, there's one. I remember he's tied to like a cowboy campfire.
Really?
Like, yeah, you're salsa from New York. We're gonna kill you in the most inhumane way possible. Oh, I should have put more onions in there.
Deserved.
It wasn't. Hold on, they were Pace Picante commercials. That stuff sucks.
Yes, it does. It does. None of it makes any sense. That's like well, we'll bring him on. That would be like killing an Italian because he didn't bring the Olive Garden. It's like
true.
No, we only use Pace. What?
That's screw you.
So if at some point today, I guarantee you'll see this watching on YouTube, head on over to Rumble. It's a live show, weekdays, 10 a.m. Eastern. Of course, on Rumble Premium, you get 100% more show. You get a Friday show. And I'm not going to introduce you because you already spoke. You get this man every day on Rumble Premium, Mug Club. When you hear this, you know him. 5 p.m. Eastern, weekdays. And Thursday, February 20th, he's going to be at the Bricktown Comedy Club in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Funniest man alive. See his dates at nickdip.com. Go watch the OG. Nick DiPaolo, how are you, sir?
Very good, thank you. How you doing, Stephen? You look good. You look good.
I'll take it.
You know when he says that twice, that's a real compliment.
No, you know when he says it twice, there's something wrong. Like, what do I have? Something in my...
You look great.
Saying the opposite.
You're great, kid.
There's something happening. Something's going to come from this direction at some point in the show that's going to make me feel bad about myself. And I welcome it. And Gerald Captain Morgan, CEO, how are you?
Fine, I guess.
Okay. Don't know about you guys, but I'm excited for Christmas. I think you are too as well, Gerald.
I can feel it.
Absolutely, man. It's a season of giving, right?
Right.
Yeah, like, giving a guy a hand, right? Yeah.
Sure. Yeah,
right?
I'm gonna give
okay,
a guy.
right. So you'd help your neighbor. Like if you saw somebody that needed help, not a hand. Nick, stop it.
If
I didn't say anything, I just thought that was odd.
You'd be a good Samaritan.
Yes, I have been known to be a good Samaritan.
Really?
Of course.
Are you sure about that?
That I'm an above average Samaritan. Yeah.
I just want to make sure that we are on this.
Yes, I would help out my fellow man.
You know what? It's interesting you should say that, Tim. How about you roll this clip?
Huh? Oh, it's the machete attack.
What the?
And no one does anything in London.
Just a second. Hold on, Tim. Can you do me a favor?
What
Bring back just still frame. Just the very beginning. Oh, Steven.
Well,
what the hell?
I was touring the Paddington sites.
Oh my God.
Yes.
I was.
That's weird.
I was
You're
on my
touring the
way to.
Paddington
I was on my way to the Marmalade
sites?
historic. That's the only interest I have in going to London.
a fictional character.
Have you not seen Paddington?
Is that
I
a
have
beer?
not.
It's
I
a
know what it is.
It's a fantastic, heartwarming film. You guys are about to cross some lines. If you comment below, Paddington, and surprisingly, Paddington 2, also a fantastic film.
It holds up.
Yes, it does. It doesn't need a hold up. It's always up. It's always right there. And I know this because with my little ones, I have had to watch mountains
Of porn.
of shit. And every now and then when you find a good film, you're like, okay,
But thankfully,
let's do this. And that's 86, The Cat in the Hat.
for me,
where-
it's Minions.
Minions?
But then my kids slap each other, so it's kind of a win lose.
yeah,
So-
don't show them Home Alone because you
I
will
have.
get
I have, but I stopped at like a certain point. I'm like, I can't show you the rest of the movie.
you will get a paint can to the face.
They made another Home Alone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, with Nathan Lane. Homo. Homo alone.
Everybody's tired today.
We're the sticky bandits.
I know. Did you feel the energy on that?
Yeah, okay.
Jesus, like Stephen Hawking over here.
Well,
Home Alone. Homo alone.
over here, you big horses ass. I'm calling the
He
police.
broke up with a woman. That's my favorite story. Can you imagine that poor lady?
Yeah. Really?
It's not.
Steven?
It's not you. It's me. Then he's doing donuts in her driveway.
I just feel we've grown apart. For example, I like hot bitches. You are not.
Fucking popping wheelies on the way out of her house. Just to rub it in.
Hooters, here I come. Ha 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 ha.
I go for the wings.
By the way, you should go to prepwithcrowder.com. Get $50 off your 4-week emergency food kit. They're one of our longest standing sponsors. And like I said, whether it's an ice storm in Montreal, if it's a natural disaster, you should always have some water on hand. You should always have some dried food, some way to heat it. And I do recommend Everclear, but not for drinking. That is not a sponsor.
Yeah. No,
Can
that
I-
is not a sponsor. By the
can
way,
I
that's
ask
actually
a
a good Christmas gift too.
It is a good Christmas
We
gift.
got those a couple of years ago.
You,
Yeah.
that's the sponsor, right?
Yeah.
You did a whole sketch around it?
Yeah.
Is that, they love that, right?
Yeah,
It's like
yeah, they
a
do.
5-minute sketch.
Sometimes they don't. Like when we have someone in the commercial drop the N-bomb, that was ill-advised back in the day.
Who did that?
We'll get into it.
I'm just
For the
asking.
ACLU, don't worry.
We had.
I'm like, I wasn't
it was
here
a black
5 years
guy.
ago.
It was a black guy, but it still is apparently unacceptable for a sponsor.
Oh,
So
for the
we learned-
love of Christ, these
we
filthy
learn.
Jays. I don't even know what Jays is.
Hey,
folks. That could be John Genie.
Well, you know what? You're going to get really mad here because we're going to have to show this to people. But there's good news: is the Utah senator, former
Utah?
senator,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm sorry. He's been in so many states. running
former
for
Massachusetts
office, I just
governor,
can't
and
keep
then
track.
something in
Yes.
Michigan.
Yeah, uh-huh.
You know, Mitt Romney. He's decided, and hopefully he's not like a Backstreet Boy where he's going away and then he comes immediately
They always
back.
come back.
Solo
yeah.
career.
Yeah, I really hope he doesn't. I hope he's gone
Or like
forever.
Freddy Krueger.
So he did say he's leaving politics, and a big part of that, of course, is Donald Trump. And I am so ashamed that I voted for this guy. But at
Me
that
too.
point, it was Barack Obama or him. Can you comment? Can you forgive me?
No.
Can you forgive me, please? Can you forgive me?
Me too.
No.
But in honor of
Abstain.
his retirement, we give you Mitt Romney's time to close.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Mitt Romney.
He is, in fact, Pierre Delecto. That's right. A sitting U.S. senator speaks his truth from an anonymous Twitter account.
I actually like jokes as well as things that are sort of fun.
Time to close. Endings and beginnings. Ending and beginning now.
love being introduced as the conservative's conservative.
I will preserve and protect a woman's right to choose.
We're friendly. He calls me his homeboy now. And they brought us whole binders full of women.
I think people don't appreciate actually his sense of humor.
Published reports say during a family trip in the 80s, Romney loaded his dog into a pet carrier and strapped the carrier to the roof of the car for the entirety of the 12-hour trip. Romney today told me the dog loved it.
Please. I've had a lot of dogs and love them and care for them very deeply.
Someone who can mistreat his dog the way Mitt Romney did is probably not the kind of person that we want.
Time to close. Endings and beginnings are ending and beginning now.
I will not be voting for former President Trump.
The president's purpose was personal and political. Accordingly, the president is guilty of an appalling abuse of public trust.
I love humor.
I know that it's time for things to close. I know that it's time for things to close. Things to close.
I did not achieve everything I'd hoped.
You need to apologize, Mormons.
That's right.
That one's on you.
He sucks.
I know he is not you, but just like there are not enough Muslims across this world who condemn Islamic terrorism when it happens, you need to, in one unified voice, say there's not enough holy undergarments in the world. So, to make up for Mitt Romney, it's a stain in our history. Let's go on to this pardon thing. So, Joe Biden, former Vice President Joe Biden, he pardoned Hunter Biden. Okay, we all know that.
Wow.
But now this has come out that he will be potentially preemptively pardoning a bunch of people, notably Anthony Fauci. We'll get to that in a second. Some people are saying he can't do that. There is some historical precedence here, but this is pretty interesting because you're seeing this kind of civil war, these fractures on the left. Charlemagne was talking about this, and he called out the ladies, I'm using that term loosely, of The View.
All of the criticism is valid because, Democrats
First off,
stand on
pause.
this moral high ground.
Does he think that we don't know he's had work done to make him look like Xerxes? Like everyone can tell.
Well,
the
Xerxes
eyeliner
was a god. He's a god, I guess.
That's right. Charlemagne, the god.
They all wear makeup.
All right.
Really?
Let's see.
Except the real one.
All the time. And, they act so self-righteous. The reality is he didn't have to say anything in regards to, whether or not, his son wanted to be pardoned. He could have said, hey, man, I'm not focused on that right now. But since they were calling Trump a threat to democracy and they were saying that, nobody's above the law, but they were speaking about him, that's what they were running on. So when he kept saying things like, nobody's above the law, I respect, the jury's decision in regards to my son, he didn't believe that. But he didn't have to volunteer that lie to begin with.
I'm going to stop you for a second.
You have brittle bones and you're old and fat. You're not stopping
Only
anything.
because you don't know that it was a lie. We don't know why he changed
You
his
really think he just changed his mind over Thanksgiving weekend all
No,
of a sudden?
at some point you get to the place where you just go, so I'm just going to follow the straight and narrow always, because that's what's expected of Democrats.
Oh, come
That's their
on.
fault. They're the ones that they're the ones that go out there and they stand on this moral high ground.
Listen,
they don't have to do that. Well, I don't think people are flipping out with Joe. I think Democrats are flipping out with Joe because Democrats believe that they don't represent what he's currently representing. But that's just not true. That's why I say they stand on this moral high ground that simply does not exist.
But that's not a monolith. We're not, Democrats are not a monolith.
Yeah,
Why
you
can't
are,
say
you
when
dumb
Democrats are wrong?
twat.
And why can't Republicans say when Republicans are
I'll
wrong?
tell you when Democrats
So
are
you
wrong.
don't think
I
Joe
say it
Biden is
on the
wrong?
show.
No, I don't.
don't.
And can I
Well,
just point this out to you?
Now that Trump has
Here,
won,
watch this.
you say that you don't think cable news will ever truly cover him honestly again. Why?
Not even just cable news, no network. Nobody, because they didn't do it before. So why would they do it now? They're scared to death.
What
He's the
about
president of the United States
What
of
about
America.
us?
Have you watched The View?
What about you?
Well, let's be honest. Sonny, I saw you have to apologize a couple times last week. So somebody's coming with some notes from
I'm not
downstairs.
apologizing.
Okay.
I'm making a legal note as an attorney of law.
Because
That's right.
Oh
Thank
my
you.
God, they're children.
You're always a particularly good attorney when you have to remind us.
Yeah.
Wait, she's
Your Honor, I'm an attorney. Oh, I forgot. I just thought you were a dumb bimbo for a second there. Can I see your degree? This is just this show is, and by the way, I think that Charlemagne, the God, THA, there's a little bit of self-preservation here right now because he kind of went all in on quite a bit of the social justice causes, and now he realizes that it's been,
didn't really hold her feet to the fire until later on, and now look, he's making a completely reasonable point, and all he's saying is like,
Couple
hey,
of them.
pardon it, fine, but to go out and say that you're not going to, and that you respect this, and to run on that was his point. That's what everybody needed to focus on. He ran on that against Donald Trump. Now nobody believes the lie, and then you've got Whoopi saying, hold on.
Well, he doesn't always have to stay on the straight and narrow. Yes, because when I think the Biden family, I think straight and narrow.
Or Democrats in general. I don't think either party stays on the straight and narrow all the time. Like that's not what's expected. But you can't just keep lying to us and expect us to believe you next time.
No.
Well, but the Republicans don't run on you. They don't say.
No, I know.
They don't say they're the moral end all.
No.
The Democrats, that's their fucking motto for the last 100 years.
Well, remember,
they're full of shit.
When Donald Trump, it was what changed American history. This answer to the question of the debate with Hillary Clinton, where he said, the system's rigged. And she goes, oh yeah, well, he's one of. He goes, Yeah, I used the system. Why didn't you change the laws?
Yeah.
He said, you rigged the system. And yep, I know it's rigged. It's rigged because I use it. He was being very straightforward about it. But that's the difference, right? I think that when people say Donald Trump is authentic, you see him for all of us with all of his flaws as well. Whereas the Bidens try and go out and act like they're choir boys.
Yeah.
The honesty has been now called authentic.
Yeah, exactly.
When you're being honest, you're authentic.
It's because everyone on the left, they're so afraid of cancel culture. They have to say, I mean, when people used to complain about the Christian right, for example, like South Park, the Christian right just didn't want South Park on in primetime. And you know who agreed with the creators of South Park? They said, yeah, we should be on. This is an adult show, a late night show. They weren't trying to ban it.
Right.
Today, it's not about the FCC, the left. It's an entire, everyone, all the viewers, everyone with the blog who's a liberal has become the FCC. That's the censorship culture. And so they have to fake who they are. Let's be honest, Kamala Harris is someone whose greatest qualification was blowing a mayor. And you want to believe?
And not even a white one.
No.
By the way, keep an eye out for that line of defense. Like that's what I've heard from like people like Destiny and now obviously Whoopi and other people online saying, well, if they don't play by the rules, we don't have to. And so they're making this kind of claim that Republicans don't play by the rules. You can argue that, but then the idea that we don't have to follow the straight and narrow because they don't, that leads to a lot of very crazy things. If you follow that logic down, well, they don't believe in this, so we should just pack the Supreme Court. Oh, they don't believe in that, so we should just do whatever the hell we want. It basically becomes licensed to do anything that you want to do. And it's because the other side is so bad that I have to do this, even though I know it's wrong, to make sure that we don't have the other side do all the bad stuff that they aren't even doing.
Think about this for a second. People think they have the moral high ground. Let's just take the entire panel of The View. Let's take the entire DNC. Okay. You have people who support abortion up until and including birth without exceptions, period. You have people who believe that Americans shouldn't be responsible for the degrees they get. They shouldn't be responsible for paying the debt that they accrue. They shouldn't be responsible for the houses they signed a contract to pay for. These are people who they believe that children should be able to have permanent sexual reassignment surgery and that could start as early as 2 when we talked about Strangio yesterday. And these same people tell you that you are immoral because you said a naughty word. We're talking about people who had international corrupt business dealings with foreign governments, the Bidens, and they say you're bad because Donald Trump said a bad word on a TMZ snippet. Like, really, I think we're past that. That's the beauty of this.
Somebody go on that show and just go, any of you broads here, when's the last time you were wrong about anything?
Right.
Just ask them right to their face. Whoopi, when's the last time you said something?
Yeah.
When's the last time you were wrong about anything?
Yeah. And they'll always tell you, well, I admit when I'm wrong. I did it. I do it all the time. Well, do it now.
Yeah.
Well, I can't think about it. We have an admonish button right here. I'm sure I've been wrong about something today. Toolman, hit the admonish button. Just
for funsies.
Let's do it preemptively. Just admonish me because I'll say something wrong.
Admonish.
I also like it.
It's kind of fun.
It feels nice.
It's like a prenuptial.
Which brings us to a preemptive pardons, because this was reported from Politico, okay, that Joe Biden is considering preemptive pardons. Boy, it's a far cry from I won't pardon my son to now I'm going to preemptively I'm going to
everybody.
I'm going to minority report pardon people.
It's
pardon the swamp.
Nice.
It's Politico. Who listens to the Spanish?
Yes. So this is what they said. They said Biden's aides are deeply concerned about a range of current and former officials who could find themselves facing inquiries and even indictments. Oh, I wonder why they might be concerned about facing inquiries.
Right.
Oh, is that because because you were the former vice president when the DOJ decided to indict and prosecute your political opponent for, by the way, doing the exact same thing you did, except his were locked up, and we're just talking about classified documents. It's something that should be talked about more. We have a direct apples to apples comparison on the classified documents. One of them had them locked up, but they said weren't labeled classified. That was the big controversy. The other one had them next to his Corvair. They say a sense of alarm, which has only accelerated since Trump last weekend announced the appointment of Kash Patel to lead the FBI. Patel has publicly vowed to pursue Trump's critics.
No, that is a lie.
It is a lie.
Trump, of course. Listen, I'm sorry. Go pull what Kash Patel said. He's not saying I'm going to go after people who criticize Donald Trump.
No.
I'm going to go after people who have been coming after Donald Trump and have broken the law.
That's right.
That you should be very afraid with anybody coming into office. If you have broken the law, you should be terrified that they're going to come after you.
Now, here's the thing. They're talking about pardons for a list of people. And these aren't just critics of Donald Trump. It includes Adam Schiff, Liz Cheney, Anthony Fauci. We'll do a segment here on Anthony Fauci because he deserves special attention.
He does.
But Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney, I don't know if you know this, their lies have resulted in people being in prison for crimes they didn't commit. You think that deserves an inquiry? People who were there on January 6th, who never committed an assault, who never trespassed, who were invited in for a walking tour, have been held in prison without bail. Does that warrant an inquiry? And these people had the footage and suppressed it and withheld the footage. And they allowed everyone in this country to say January 6th, it's 9/11 harder, right? It's the worst day in American history. But you have people, whether you think January 6th was the abomination that the left does, or if you think it's blown out of proportion, it doesn't change the fact that people who committed zero crimes were held in prison for a very long time without bail because of these people.
People committed suicide because of trumped up charges from this.
Yeah.
There's stories about that. Like, it's real stuff. People that were not there to do any harm.
Yes, that is. And by the way, we're talking about Fauci. We have some tweets here, ex posts from Elon Musk. They've not been shy about going after Fauci, not because he's been critical of Donald Trump, but because he's committed crimes against humanity, arguably. So Elon Musk said in December 2022, my pronouns are prosecute Fauci. And people said this was wrong. It was irresponsible. So in November of this year, he said, my pronouns are still prosecute Fauci.
Oh, I really backpedaled.
Yeah. And do you sense that? Do you sense the new tone in the air? Let's just stop trying to appease these people. Appeasing crocodiles.
I want to see people go to jail.
Yeah, me too.
Then I'll be excited. Until then, it's still just fucking words from the right.
And I don't mean critics. I don't want to see anyone go to jail for saying naughty things. I want to see people go to jail for committing crimes, for committing legitimate crimes against humanity. So let's go to Fauci really quickly, because this is the framing of the left is, well, this is just going to be a political prosecution. No, that would be the trumped up charges, admittedly from the DOJ themselves against Donald Trump to render him ineligible. But let's go to the claim here on Fauci. All references available, link in the description. Fauci said himself that he did absolutely nothing wrong.
Are you concerned if Donald Trump were to become president again, that you or aides to you during this time might be prosecuted or face additional consequences for what happened during the pandemic?
Well, what did happen?
Well, Casey, I don't know what one would prosecute me for. I mean, figure something out. What are we talking about? I mean, as a public health official, a scientist, I played a major role in the development of the vaccine that was responsible for the saving of millions of lives. So if that's what you're accusing me of, then I'm definitely guilty of that. But I'm not sure what people talk about when they say prosecute for what.
So basically, in a nutshell, his claim is, I'm guilty of caring too much. All right. Here's the truth. Anthony Fauci is potentially, I would argue absolutely, is guilty of many, many crimes, serious crimes, and not crimes that, you maybe undervalued some real estate because you wanted to save money on property taxes, but everyone was happy, including the bank who was paid back. I mean, crimes that irreparably destroyed lives of people across this country. But let's start with a couple that are concrete before we go broad. Really clear, really easy to prove, lied to Congress about gain-of-function research.
Dr. Fauci, knowing that it is a crime to lie to Congress, do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement.
Take an animal virus and you increase its transmissibility to humans.
Right.
You're saying that's not gain-of-function?
Yeah, that is correct. And Senator Paul,
Watch this.
You do not know what you are talking about, quite frankly.
Oh, I'm getting snippy. There's going to be a new Nick at Night special called That's So Me. You do not know what you are talking about. Well, I'm describing research that can actually mutate artificially in a lab, engineering a virus. You think that's gain of function? Yes.
Yes.
You don't know nothing. Really? This is gain of function. Fauci knew about it as early as January 2020. Right. That there was gain of function research going on in Wuhan. And that's been confirmed. We covered this yesterday by the subcommittee, the select subcommittee
and when this came out, like, people found this out very quickly. When it came out, it was always a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Right. That you're connecting all these dots here. No. It's a conspiracy. It never actually happened.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. There's no way for him to get out from under that lie. None whatsoever.
And here's the thing, too, when he says, I've never lied. This is really, because it is a binary. The answer has to come from one of two. It's a binary choice here. Okay, so you never lied. So when you were the primary source that Oprah cited, that I believe it was 1 in 3 heterosexual couples would be affected by HIV in the 1990s and that people could transmit HIV through household items because it could live on surfaces. So if you weren't lying, are you such an idiot that you should have been fired then? And then how do you maintain this job security to become the highest paid unelected official in Washington, D.C.? That's the swamp, right? Someone like this commits crimes, nothing will happen to them unless someone like Donald Trump, opens up an inquiry. Also, Fauci and Francis Collins, you remember this? They likely conspired to silence other scientists. You remember the Great Barrington Declaration. And of course, they played a key role in removing voices online. You can say I have a personal vendetta because that happened with us. By the way, we were banned from YouTube for 2 weeks for citing the CDC. Oh, right now on CNN, let's see what they discussed. They have these three assheads pictures up.
Certainly in the Constitution, it is provided that members of Congress may not be held
just jump out of a
answered
pool?
any other place for their
Look at Jim
legislative work.
Acosta looking at her tits.
If there was an effort to pursue either the members of Congress or the staff who were doing legislative work, that would be wrong. Ultimately, it would fail. But of course, it could cause
Riveting.
a lot of upset,
Right.
which is
yeah.
probably
Great. By the way,
what
this is the same party that said that Donald Trump didn't have presidential immunity for acts taken as president, which of course everyone knows.
They didn't know how to read the Constitution.
Yeah, they didn't
though,
know
in
how to
their
read the
defense. In their defense, the Supreme Court didn't make this thing happen. They read it and said, hey, page 5.
There's nothing consistent about the left today. By the way, as far as the victims, we'll make these references available. You may have forgotten this. A lot of people, 600,000 businesses closed forever, right? Because of COVID guidelines that were by and large set by Fauci. There's a 38% increase in alcohol-related deaths. There were 1.18 million excess deaths due to denial of medical care during the epidemic. If you remember that, they weren't seeing people in hospitals. People couldn't get cancer screenings. There are 55 million children out of school for far longer than necessary because of the influence from the teachers union. Suicide rates went up between 2020 and 21. Depression rates went up by 3 times the previous rate. All of which, by the way, was being predicted by other doctors and other scientists who, that's right, were suppressed. You've done nothing wrong? Like, take what Nick just said about The View, apply it to Fauci. What mistakes did you make, sir? What would you do differently? These people never have to answer for it.
Yeah. His answer basically was, what are they going to prosecute me for being too good at my job?
Right.
By making the vaccine. I was like, that's the most pompous answer that I have ever heard from somebody.
And he's
no
taking
humility.
And he's taking credit for something where we haven't seen the final. People, we know.
Yeah.
Heart problems, kidney problem, people dropping dead at 28.
Yeah.
And he's taking credit for it.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to tell me he doesn't know those numbers.
And can people out there,
he really is an evil.
Even if you like Fauci, even if you're a leftist who still wears a mask by yourself in your car and you're my enemy if you do that, can you at least acknowledge he's a weasel? He's a turncoat weasel. He was working there with Donald Trump. And I remember watching him on a show where someone said, you had a president then who told people to inject bleach. He's like, it was very frustrating. How about you say, I was there. He didn't say that. You may not like him. He's difficult to work with, but Donald Trump, President Trump, never said to inject bleach. Instead, he went along with it.
Right.
He's an untrustworthy rat. Now, this brings us, though, to the question, and there's a lot of speculation out there, can former Vice President Biden even legally pardon people preemptively like this? And the answer, though, is yes. Yes, he can.
Yeah.
So
it's been done a lot.
It's been done a lot. Let me give you some examples. 1974, Gerald Ford pardoned Nixon. Right. Watergate. That was one.
Healing a nation.
He was preemptively pardoned prior to being charged or indicted. A lot of people don't necessarily remember that. 1977, Carter pardoned a bunch of Vietnam draft dodgers, right? I guess about 360,000. They were preemptively pardoned.
Wow.
Prior to being charged. In 1992, George H.W. Bush pardoned a guy named Caspar Weinberger in connection to Iran-Contra. So this has happened, again, before trial, before charges were brought, even going back to 1865, Andrew Johnson pardoned Confederate soldiers, provided they pledged loyalty to the United States and agreed to free any slaves that they owned. Unfortunately, they did have their fingers crossed.
So we should have known.
Yeah.
Look behind, hands up, guys.
You can't have a perfect record.
Right. That's
So, and when these guys like Fauci at the beginning of his career, he knows when he's working for the administration, they're aware of pardons at the end of their term. Wouldn't that affect your behavior as far as lying?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly right. You don't tell them, you do it. You don't give them the warning like, okay, I'm going to preemptively pardon. So like have a little case of senioritis on your way out.
Yeah.
No, but this is the party of law and order. That was what they were running on. Remember, law and order.
That's right. And that's the difference between them and Republic. They run on it. That's their mantra, morally superior. That's where they start when you have a discussion with a liberal.
Yeah.
They are morally superior. And you know, Republicans don't do that. They break the law and shit too, but they don't run on that they're angels.
Of course.
Yeah. And I don't want us to become a party or a system where we start prosecuting the other side after the term. Like, I don't want that. But what I do want is when it's clear as day. Did you just break your mug?
I got water all over myself.
We're going to need a towel. When it's clear as day that the law has been broken, though, and a report comes out and says, yes, they broke the law, but Comey, no reasonable person would bring this. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
No reasonable prosecutor would do this. We had people lying before Congress. There's multiple people on the other side that have done that. And then also, my favorite one from Hers report is that he's just too old and too stupid to be prosecuted, but he's president. So, you know, I guess that's okay.
I agree with the first portion.
I understand.
I did, by the way, I can't use my notes.
Well, you don't really make any notes.
It smudged your whole note yesterday about Mercedes and black babies. I'm have to put it in the old noggin. And where do you go when we're talking about Fauci? But then we also talk about the weaponizing of the DOJ. Where do you go when you have big tech colluding with government to suppress any type of dissent, to suppress points of view? Okay, do you go to the justice system? Oh, no, wait, that's corrupted as well because they're going to try and render someone politically ineligible or they're actively involved in suppressing speech. All right, we have this Center for Disease and Control. What do we? Oh, no, wait, hold on a second. That's also been politicized. And none of these people are subject to the same system that they run. And that brings us to what's happening in New York City with Daniel Penny. But before that, go to crowdershop.com. I think you probably have to order your stuff if you want it for Christmas within the next week.
Yeah, they gave me a date of the 16th. I wouldn't push it too far because shipping, they can say that it's going to arrive on time. Not our guys, but the UPS, FedEx, all those people, the Postal Service, and they end up getting delayed. So go there now, grab some stuff, crowdershop.com. We got some Christmas stuff that's on the way. We're going to be wearing in the next few days.
Right.
But really, really cool stuff.
So
let's the Christmas movie.
Let's talk about New York here because we have the United Healthcare. The person there who was assassinated, it seems. But we also have this story that's ongoing right now. This trial of Daniel Penny, the subway Good Samaritan, is what I'll call him. And I don't think that a lot of people out there know the railroading that is taking place. And I think you'll understand a little bit better when you meet the prosecutor involved with this case. It brings us to this week's Empire State of Crime.
New York, concrete shit holes, street crime tornado. No one will protect you. Now you're in New York.
I forgot that we added in.
We changed it. Yeah.
Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Give him another Grammy.
It's like MC Bob.
I love that song.
It is a good song. Horrible City. So, by the way, if you can make it in New York, the truth is you probably can only make it in New York. It's a very unique place, and it doesn't.
You can make it there in Rochester.
Yes, exactly. Bronxville. Daniel Penny. This is the man on the subway. We'll refresh your memory here. In New York, and this is what I want you to remember. Again, now you have systems that exist that don't protect their people, and then if good people decide to protect their fellow neighbor, they get railroaded by said system.
Yeah.
Before we get into any of this and this prosecutor, this man on the subway who was screaming, this man who was violent, who was belligerent, you do have to ask yourself, you think this was the first time? I think this was the first time that man went onto the subway and intimidated women and children and harassed people and violated their fellow Americans' fundamental rights? Or do you think this person was doing it day in and day out until they ran into Daniel Penny? Let's keep that in mind because you do have a choice. You have a choice of someone like Daniel Penny stepping up, as flawed as his technique may be, or living in a city where people act this way without consequences. Yeah. That's why you're seeing even the mayor, Eric Adams, starting to change a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit. So right now, there are deliberations, still taking place in this trial, and the jury has not reached a verdict.
Jurors spent a second day deliberating the fate of Daniel Penny. The Marine veteran is charged in the chokehold death of Jordan Neely on the subway last year. Jurors sent 2 notes today, one asking for cell phone video of the incident, police body camera video, and Penny's police station interview. The second note asked for certain testimony from the medical examiner who performed Neely's autopsy. They wanted that to be read back. Penny has pleaded not guilty to second-degree manslaughter and criminally negligent homicide.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, by the way, the picture that they showed of the guy that Penny was restraining. I can't remember.
Neely.
Neely, thank you.
Yeah.
So the picture of Neely, like just remember that, because Eric Adams addresses that picture right there.
Yeah.
Like, that's a nice guy that you're sitting next to on the subway.
Yeah.
He's not going to be a problem,
No.
right? Now, please show me the cracked out of his mind picture that Daniel Penny had to see probably on multiple occasions, I would imagine.
Put up one of his 14 mugshots
Yeah.
the last year.
This is what they do. They try to make it out to be this sympathetic figure. Like, oh, come on, that's a normal average Joe that just got, taken down. Come on.
It's so predictable. I was on Russia Today a long time ago when Trayvon Martin was going on.
Yeah.
I was talking into basically a webcam. And I remember saying, and as we're discussing this, I bet that you'll probably run the picture of Trayvon back when he was in grade school and not the most recent. And I couldn't see it. They were running that picture while I was speaking. This is back in 2009, I think.
Yeah.
There's nothing new here. And of course, this prosecutor is someone who, of course, forces identity politics down your throat. You'll see how inconsistent it's been, and you'll understand why New York is in the state that it's in. For those of you who have missed this, let me refresh your memory. This is the video of Penny subduing this drugged out nuisance right here. Let's watch it, and I'll just talk over it a little bit. Keep playing it.
Where are the cops?
And you can see people there. One thing that always sticks out to me is no one else is scared. No one else is scared at this point of Penny. That does matter. That does matter. If everyone in the subway is scared or feels harassed or is annoyed, but they're actually scared of Jordan Neely and not one is scared of Penny, hey, that should tell you something. Oh, people are assisting Penny.
Yeah.
That should tell you something.
They're not saying let him up.
No, they're not. But this is the prosecutor involved with this. The assistant district attorney, Daphne Yoren. Okay? This person is, of course,
Scissor me timbers.
a part of Alvin Bragg's office, has donated exclusively to Democrats, including Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, the Future Now Fund PAC, which is actually specifically designed to flip red states blue. And she specifically donated to flip Texas blue, which is odd.
Bad investment.
Considering, I was really hoping for Beto.
He can kick flip in.
And in case you didn't know enough, I mean, I'm sure, you look at the picture and obviously the lesbian bulb goes off in your head, but married to a Peruvian artist who makes art like this. I asked for my production team on a hunch. I said, oh, wait, this lesbian is married to a Peruvian woman who is an artist. Can you please find me some of that? Oh, it's exactly what I thought it was.
Yes. Worse than I think we could have imagined.
Shocker. And people want to act like these folks can be impartial. It's not
can't.
possible.
No,
Not
They
possible.
can't. And you think I'm joking right now. Nobody gay should be a judge. Case fucking closed.
All right.
I'd take it further racially, but I know I'll get in trouble. I'm dead serious. They can't be fucking impartial. Sorry.
No, it's true.
I'm basing it on hundreds of years now.
Yeah.
That woman is angry at the world because she looks like Mr. fucking Ed. And she takes it out
on her lesbian bride, because they do beat each other quite often.
No, she fucking hates. She's
lesbians, not them.
They don't fit into the mainstream of this country. She's bitter and hateful.
Yeah, no, I
and
think you're right.
she's smart enough to get a law degree. And here we are.
Yeah.
And she could not be impartial to save her fucking life.
No, she couldn't. Well, that brings us to
the uglier, the more angry. By the way,
we have a pretty good good contrast here, because let's go with now how this prosecutor is handling the Penny case, and then we'll go to then, because I know what you're going to think initially.
Yeah.
Oh, so this is just a carpet muncher who's tough on crime. No, it's not consistent.
And carpet.
So is it urine or urine? Does it matter? I don't care.
Call it urine.
Urine.
Feces, urine.
So urine has already pulled the race card in this case. Even though, of course, Penny not charged with a hate crime. This wasn't really introduced here until this person did it.
Right.
Because Well, the real crime that Penny committed in this case is referred to the drugged out nuisance, the crackhead,
Seriously.
as a crackhead. And so this prosecutor said that this is a racially charged term. Using the term, let's roll the clip of Penny referring to Neely as, it's basically a synonym for N-word, crackhead.
He got on like diagonally from me. So he came in, but I was on my phone, like listening to music. I wasn't paying attention. He's just a crackhead, you know what I mean? So
He seemed like he was on something. He
yeah,
was
absolutely.
intoxicated, high.
Something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, he was
those, like
moonwalking.
K2 that they're smoking, pushing people in front. Like these people are going crazy. So
And look, I get people are going to say, well, you say crackhead, you're usually referring to a black person. Be that as it may, when you say meth head, you're referring to white trash. It's just you look at the usage of drug. Black people use more crack. White people use meth. The effect's the same. And fentanyl is the great uniter because that just bridges the racial divide.
It is. It really is.
Together.
It's the MLK of drugs.
Yes. For some reason, people are racially picky when it comes to their uppers. When it comes to the painkillers, it's like, all right, just bring it over here. Black, white, doesn't matter. It's all precious.
We are the world.
I had a dream and a pipe.
Yes.
That fentanyl would unite us.
Yes. So, by the way, he also has a basis for that, not only because the man very likely yelled, I'm a crackhead, but during his testimony, NYPD Sergeant Carl Johnson said that his team didn't do CPR on Neely specifically because, quote, he seemed to be a drug user. He was an apparent drug user. He was very dirty. I didn't want them to get hepatitis.
So they didn't perform CPR on this guy?
Okay, so they're the ones.
Yeah.
If anybody should be in trouble.
Yes.
They walked into the subway and went, ew.
Oh, he's probably got chicken between his teeth.
You do it. I
don't want to. No, I'm not doing
I'm not
this.
doing that.
That sounds racial.
I didn't bring one of those face masks.
So, yeah.
And by the way, this attorney also allowed witnesses, which you're not supposed to allowed them to describe Penny as the white man, a murderer. They want to paint all of this with the brush of race.
Come on.
Now, if this was just an angry lesbian who was tough on crime, that would be one thing. But this brings us back to then. Yoren has reduced murder charges consistently. So in one case, we have this with a black man. In 2019, she reduced charges for a black man who murdered an elderly Asian man in the middle of a robbery. And it was, I believe, just $300, wasting a guy for nothing. And she actually reduced the charges of this murderer in the name of restorative justice.
The more I learned about the defendant and his life and the circumstances, the kinds of things that Jarrell was talking about, that one should take into account the trauma of that individual, I really felt incredibly sorry for him that he had gotten to that point in his life where he felt like there was no other choice but to commit this robbery.
Had no choice but to commit this robbery?
Here's the thing, too. And you may say that I'm racist here, okay? There's nothing in your background or upbringing that would change my opinion of your slaughtering of an old Asian man for $300. Don't care. Your dad didn't hug you enough? Doesn't matter. Oh, you had a rough go. Your wife left you. Sorry. Someone touched you in the park? That sucks. You killed someone for no reason. That's it. That's it. And by the way, when we're talking about, I feel really bad because of his upbringing, and they try and play this too with this Penny case. Hey, I don't know if you know this, but when we're talking about Penny, right? Military.
Yeah.
I don't know if it probably didn't come from an upper class family. Probably needed to make a go of it, go into the military, maybe pay for school. We don't know his story, but why do we only feel bad for one person who, let's assume that they both had difficult upbringings. One decided to serve his country, and one decided to only harm his fellow civilians by rampaging through the subways on crack. Why do we only feel bad for the one who made the bad decisions? Shouldn't we actually maybe reserve our empathy for the people who make a better situation of their life? Isn't that what we want other people to model? Not in New York City. So this man who murdered an elderly Asian man, you have the references available. Go check them out so you know I'm not lying to you. The sentence went from 25 to life down to 10 years. The guy will be eligible for parole in 2026.
Jeez. Ooh. That's like a year.
Contrast that with Penny right now, who's facing a 15-year sentence.
She looks at any guy, any white male. She sees white male patriarchy.
Yeah.
That's all she sees. I don't give a shit what age the guy is.
Yeah.
I don't understand the charges. I mean, listen, I get that there's frustration. Okay, maybe the chokehold, or it wasn't even really. It looks like a blood choke, right? He wasn't like choking.
Right.
He doesn't know how to apply a chokehold.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it was applied improperly or something like that. But Do you think that these charges should have been brought?
No, nothing. I think it should be
only in this
No.
world, especially New York City.
Yeah. And you know what? Actually, this is where we are. We're getting to this point where even New York City Mayor, Eric Adams, he's getting pretty tired of this, losing his patience.
I'm too old for this.
No, that's what's the right clip. But we actually do have a clip.
I think that was the guy Penny was choking.
Do we have a clip of Adams?
Yeah,
Adams talking about this.
When you looked at the photo that was being used, it wanted to set up in the minds of people that we were dealing with a young innocent child.
Before crack.
That, just a Michael Jackson intimidator. That
Intimidator.
was just brutally
Freudian
assaulted.
slip.
The complete failure
It
of
was.
our mental health system. A complete failure. We're on the subway where we're hearing someone talking about hurting people, killing people. You have someone on that subway who was responding, doing what we should have done as a city and a state of having a mental health facility. Those passengers were afraid. I'm hoping that the jury will hear all the facts. Based on all the facts that's laid out, a jury of his peers would make the right decision.
I'm glad to hear him say that, but are we at the point too little, too late? I mean, he's a mayor, right? This is a guy.
I think so. I mean, I'm very appreciative that he's speaking up now, but what is it going to do? You could have spoken up a lot earlier. Now, look, and I understand, maybe people are uncomfortable with this, and I'll make this claim, and I'll stand behind this. Like, you don't think that the mayor could have made a phone call?
Yeah.
Been like, hey, guys, listen, let's talk about this. Put some pressure on people. Not tell them what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to do your job and who to prosecute and what charges to
back to
bring.
my
Come
point.
on, guys, let's think about this, a little bit. I know that kind of stuff happens all the time. And even if he didn't do something like that, speaking out earlier on in this situation could have had an impact on public perception of what was going on.
course.
Instead of letting the media run with this as a white guy killing a black man on a subway who was just impersonating Michael Jackson. Apparently he didn't like the crotch grab or something like that, right? Not a fan of the moonwalk. Get it? That's what they were doing, right? They were making this thing out to be something that it wasn't. And now at the 11th hour, literally at the 11th hour, he comes out and says something like this.
Yeah.
Like, look, great. Thanks for coming to the party, but you're freaking late, man.
Yeah.
Well, he's covering his own ass is what he's doing.
That's what I think is
but
happening.
again, modern day progressive. I don't care if it's a judge, a mayor of a city, racial and sexual. They can't be impartial. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
No,
he could not be impartial.
Yeah.
Maybe back in the day, Thomas Sowell, somebody.
Yeah.
But from what I've witnessed the last 40 years, but the OJ case and they can't be. Who's they, Nick? You know who the fuck I'm talking about.
Well, here's the thing, though. When we're talking also too about progressive
for lesbians,
progressive lesbians here, progressive leftists, like the problem that we do have in this country is it is overall a feminization of the institution.
Amen.
And I don't mean women bad, man good. What I do mean to say, though, here is, hey, New Yorkers are saying, you know what? We have the God-given right to self-preservation. We have the God-given right to our own personal space, not being invaded, certainly not violently. And we think that we should be able to protect ourselves. And certainly we want to support people who are in the moral right, defending against people who are in the moral wrong. But the feminist equivalent of this, and that's why I say feminization, is in high school, the zero tolerance policy.
Yeah.
That's what I had growing up. Right? Because you had a bunch of female principals and vice principals saying, we don't tolerate any violence. I watched kids at my school get beaten on and shove the guy off them before they go back to turtling, and both of them got the same suspension.
Yeah.
Both of them were suspended because it's a zero. That is actually perverse when you think we are teaching children that all violence is morally equivalent. And that's not a good lesson to teach children. Hey, is a rape the same as shooting a rapist? One is an awful crime. One should be celebrated as a win. And when we just teach kids violence across the board is bad because it's toxic masculinity, guess what? The criminals don't care. You know what happened in my school? The bullies, they don't have a dad at home anyway. They're fine having an after-school detention. They don't care. They can get away with it. The kids who actually care about their permanent record, the kids who care about going to a good college, the kids who actually care about their reputation, actually care about being good students, they're so afraid that they won't even stand up for themselves. So you've enabled a culture of bullying. That's why you get the crime rates you get in New York.
Right.
That's why you get Detroit, wealthiest city in the country in the 1950s, and now the worst city possibly on earth. That's what you end up with. It's a feminizing of culture where you will lose good men to stand in that pocket and fight for you, because we used to celebrate those men throughout all of human history. And I hope you understand, I'm not talking about being a bully. I'm not talking about going out and using violence to intimidate people. I'm talking about having some men on the other side who are just as violently capable so they can stop them.
Right.
You're breeding them out of existence, and then you're socializing them out of existence right now. It's a real problem. And I think that's a big part of what was rejected in this last election, just not in the microcosm that is New York City.
Yeah, but and it's so obvious too in New York on the subway. Like why do you think they target the subway?
Yeah.
Nobody will do anything. That's one of the most populated places, like it's so many people in such a small space, and nobody's going to do anything.
Yeah.
You've bred a culture basically where you've shunned the Good Samaritans. Like you need to have laws that protect Good Samaritans and that punish vigilantism. Okay. You can have that kind of divide made. You want people to stand up. When I was in New York for the Varma story, I was only there for 24 hours. A guy asked me for a bottle of water. And I was like, oh man, I'm sorry. I'm walking over to try to do like a hit, right? And do something. And he goes, well, how about some change? I'm like, I don't carry any cash. And I was being very nice to him. And he was a giant black guy with, dreads. And I was like, okay. He had like a blanket on. He looked kind of like he was sleeping there. And I was just like, nah, I'm sorry, man. And I kept walking. He's like, well, F you, man. And not one person even batted an eye.
Yeah.
It's just a Tuesday, like it's just normal.
Yep.
And how about this? If you're a lady walking down the street and a guy like that or any other guy tries to rape you, tries to do something to you on a subway, wouldn't you like every single guy within eyesight line and earshot to come to your aid?
Yeah.
To make sure that you're taken care of and safe? Not to come and kill somebody because they're black, but to come and take care of you and make sure that you don't get raped on a subway or molested.
That's the only way you stop rape culture.
It's exactly.
Women, how do you think you effectively stop rape culture? Why do you think
a whistle?
Yeah, exactly, a whistle. Unfortunately, they sell rape whistles that only call more rapists.
That's
so don't
true.
buy
They
that
know to
one.
run
You
to
put
the
that
area.
in your cart.
Yeah.
You're in for a rude awakening. But you need men who will stop it. That's why we haven't had a rape culture, for example, in the West, the way that they do in Middle Eastern countries.
Right.
Leathernecks, that term exists because the United States created a branch of military to deal with Islamic pirates who were decapitating them. And of course, part of their spoils were raping your women. You need men to stop. I'm going to say one thing here that's going to rub people the wrong way.
Ooh,
but this is a fact.
Sounds great.
Women's rights are an illusion. Do you understand that? These rights exist because of the blood spilled of good men. Do you understand that at the end of the day, you take away technology, you take away this comfortable life that you live right now. And by the way, you only need to go back a few decades. So at the span of human history, this is really a pretty new situation we find ourselves in. It's the people who can most effectively destroy the other side who protect your rights. If you cannot enforce your rights at a certain point through violence, guess what? They're an illusion. Women, the rights that we have in this country, in other words, why do you think you're allowed to drive in the United States and not in Saudi Arabia or whichever country? I don't know if they allow women to drive or get a learner's permit now. I don't care. You understand the point. Why do you think it is that if you're raped here in this country, we actually have rape kits? We actually have a justice system that will prosecute men. And they don't have that unless you have the proper amount of witnesses in a Middle Eastern country. Or, for example, all across Africa. Why do you think we don't allow domestic battery here in the United States and not in another country? And I know for all the edgy atheists out there, if I need a God to tell me not to beat a woman, then I just must be a bad person. Okay, so then how do you explain the billions of people who are okay with it? The reason that those laws exist, they're created by men in this country before those rights ever existed for women, because they wanted to protect you and create a better country, because men love their women here in the United States. But it's an illusion. Make no mistake. If you don't have men here, men who can protect your rights through violence, guess what? The other violent men out there, not women, will come and take them away from you. Your rights here in this country, as a woman, it's an illusion protected by men. And so when you create a society where you condemn the kind of men that you precisely need to protect those rights, you want more Pennies out there. You want more Kyle Rittenhouses out there. You know who you want? The kind of people who joined the military for decades until we turned it into a woke petri dish for lesbians and transgender, whatever the hell it is, the two mommies, whatever the ad is. You think those people are going to be the ones to ensure your rights when Islamic pirates come knocking? Do you have any idea? Have you looked at the Mediterranean coast? We've talked about this. Slavery off. You know that there were over 1 million people, right? White people likely, who were kidnapped, taken during the North African slave trade, right? That's why they have those cities built up with stone walls and castles to protect from marauders. Those rights were protected by physical barriers erected by violent men. Women's rights, and you can extend it to any rights, transgender rights, gay rights, LGBTQ rights. Insert whatever category you want today, here. It's all an illusion protected by, God willing, violent enough men who are willing to do the right thing. Violence is not the same across the board. We need to do away with this idea that all violence is equivalent. We're teaching kids that. It's a problem. I don't subscribe to it. I don't believe it. And I think it's pervasively corrosive to our culture. And New York has decided to go along with it. This is a railroading. It's a politically motivated case right now. You could argue racially motivated case, a politically motivated prosecutor, and someone like Daniel Penny, obviously out there, needs your prayers. I would please let him know. I'm sure he probably checks some content out every now and then, or any way you can get in touch with him. But say a prayer with your family. You know what? Say a prayer for the city of New York and say a prayer for the state of this country, because my God, we need some more violent, good men out there. That's really what we need in this country. Anyone disagree? Fine. Comment below. You're misinterpreting what I'm saying.
Well, the silver lining is the jury is asking for the right things. I
Right.
think.
Yeah.
They're asking
Right.
for the footage of
Yep.
the choking, the commentary, the autopsy, what killed him.
Mhm.
So that's at least some hope.
I'd like to know the racial makeup of the jury.
Yeah.
I'd
Yeah.
like to know the sexual orientation of the jury. I'm dead serious.
Yep.
In these days, like I said, a few years ago, maybe not so much, but now it's so polarized, and you can't. I don't care how careful you are picking a jury.
Right.
They can always hide that.
I had a conversation with someone who claimed to be, conservative Christian. And they said, "Oh, I don't want a gun in my house. I just don't think I could ever kill anybody." I said, you probably, yeah, good for you. you think that probably sounds really nice, right? Yeah, because you know that I've said that I could kill without a second thought, right? Yeah, so I'm a bad person here. Hey, what if someone's raping your wife when you come home? Or what if you're home without your gun and someone decides that they're going to enter your house and your wife is now their sex slave? Are you more moral than me because you can't bring yourself to pull the trigger? I think you're a bad person. You know how we stop sex trafficking? Violence, at the end of the day. Do you know how we ensure that you still have the right to vote? Violence. Do you know how we ensure that we don't become Saudi Arabia or Iran or Egypt or Mozambique, Darfur? Violence. You understand that. Doesn't mean you're always acting violently, but we constantly live under the perpetual threat of violence because there are always people in this world who will commit violence against the innocent. The only thing that keeps them at bay is having men who will commit the same violence to protect the innocent. And we're doing away with them. And we're doing away with a culture that venerates them and that edifies them. You're not going to like the way this one ends out. Just like I told you guys this back in 2012. The same-sex marriage thing, you think it's just about who you love and it sounds nice. You're saying that there's no such thing as a mom and a dad. There's nothing intrinsically valuable. I'm telling you this right now. This culture does not course correct. You are going to be a culture that cannot defend itself. And guess what? Either way, at some point, violence is coming. Violence is going to happen. So you can try and get on your moral high horse all you want. Do you want that violence to come in the form of protecting the innocent or enslaving them? And which side do you think you'll be on? And we're going to continue this conversation. Click that right there, Rumble Premium. Rumble Premium is Mug Club. Mug Club is Rumble Premium. You have more creators being added. You have the Barstool Sports podcast there. YouTube, hey,
Massive difference.
Huge delight. And again, this isn't necessarily a political questions. So the CEO of United Healthcare, right, Brian Thompson, you guys saw this, but now we have some new information that's out. We'll start rolling this video and continue discussing it on Mug Club Rumble Premium. Toolman, let's roll this video for people who haven't seen it.